All right, everybody, it's Chris with Drop Dice. So we are back with the City Challenge playlist. This is part one, The City, in which we are going to talk about the city in broad strokes. I am going to try and keep these videos short, sweet, and to the point, so let's go ahead and get rolling. Now, the one thing I did want to point out is I did switch the background image to a little bit more thematic image with Legend of the Five Rings. And that's something that I recommend everybody does when they do any sort of brainstorming, is collect a lot of images, reading material, things like that, that get your brain going in the right direction. I believe I said the same thing for world building. This absolutely is true for city building as well. So what I wanted to do was just kind of remind everybody real quick what we're doing. It's L5R. We're going to build a city with 6 districts. We're going to make it believable, living, and breathing. There's going to be some NPCs, which is not the focus of this video. We'll get back to them later. However, they need to be tied to each other or multiple, which can reference the map or the city itself. Now, the mapping technique I'm going to give you guys today, super simple. Don't be scared of it. I'll show you in a minute, and you'll totally see where I'm going with it. You can totally make it more advanced than this, but this is the absolute basics so that you can kind of get things mapped out in your brain. So, the next point is to have 3 rumors about each NPC. We may also generate some general city rumors, especially for like a horror adventure seed. I may say that it's believed that this area of town or this house in town is haunted. That may be enough just to have that rumor floating around. And that may be one of our adventure seeds, which who doesn't love a good haunted house? Now, I'm going to switch the screen real quick here. My mouse has been misbehaving, so kind of bear with me here. All right, there we go. So the screen is now sharing our adventure campaign, and I went ahead and marked on here where the city project is going to be. Let me scroll up a bit. This is where most of the drop-in, drop-out campaign has been taking place, is kind of in this dragon, unicorn, lion triangle that's going on here. The city that I'm going to be adding, I wanted it a little bit somewhere else. The year is 1124 in the timeline, and things are going to get pretty drastically different for Rukagon over the next 6 years, and I wanted somewhere that probably wouldn't end up in the line of fire should a war break out or anything crazy like that, because the players do have a chance to influence the story, but if we're mainly up here, I want a relatively safe zone for the city, so I'm going to put it down here. Which, because it's a drop-in, drop-out campaign, they can migrate between cities and nobody really cares, and continuity is loose at best. Think of it like a TV show that was poorly translated. That's kind of how our drop-in, drop-out campaign is going to feel. The episodes might be a little out of order, but bear with it. It's a lot of fun, and if you guys do become interested in it, just shoot me a message, and we'll see about getting you on board with that as well. So let me go ahead and close this out now that we know that where the city is going to be. This location is actually really important because it addresses the first question of what does the city have and what does the city want. So it has a river near it, and the other thing that I wanted to include was a vein of jade that is in the area, a small like set of foothills, because mountains are pretty clearly labeled on this map, and keep in mind these mountains are kind of the big, imposing, you cannot pass them kind of mountains. So there are other mountains on the map. In fact, I'm probably going to say that there is a mountain behind the city, and that is where the jade mine is, which is interesting because if most of their Edda and Henin are working the jade mine, there's going to be less in the field. So that kind of answers my question of what do they need. And that need is going to be rice, food, and clothing. Because this city is very wealthy economically, not necessarily culturally, or I should say not culturally, but agriculturally. They're going to do a lot of trading. So this city will be a trade city. Now, the map I'm going to show you here, don't worry, it's going to be easy. And there it is. This is all I do when I start building a city map, is I lay down generic blocks and I think about the city planning, especially in Legend of the Five Rings, because city planning is actually important. There's people that's their entire purpose in life, like the Kuni engineers who designed the wall and the crab cities. They're very laid out on purpose and for a specific reason. So this one, it's going to face towards the river. 5, 6, and 7 would be towards the river. and one would be towards the mountain. And one would also be raised up a little bit due to it being at the foothill of the mountain. One being a haven't decided which noble family, but it's going to be one of the noble families' keeps. This city will be in their care. Two is actually a unique feature to the city. It's not actually a district. It is a rather large garden, and technically it belongs to the noble's household. Numbers 3 and 4 are kind of different for L5R. 3 is a open marketplace where trades would be conducted. However, instead of doing trades booth style, a lot of it is actually done inside rather nice tea houses and things like that, where trades are done in levels that you wouldn't just simply hand someone, hey, here's 200 pounds of jade for your 400 pounds of iron. These are kind of the types of, there will be establishments where treaties and, not treaties, but trade agreements will be worked out. And it'll provide a little bit of social inside there that is acceptable for samurai class to be a part of, because no money will be exchanged. It will be just the discussion of the trade of goods and the continued relationship between those two parties. There will be some open booths as well as some like smiths and things like that, and this being a major trade city, I'll probably have a couple of featured smiths. Maybe those will be one of my important NPCs or one of my random NPCs, because the marketplace is probably going to have a good chunk of NPCs that spend most of their day in the marketplace. Number 4 is going to be a storehouse for large quantities of goods and foods for the entire city, keeping it mostly centralized. Now, the Imperial Keep is, of course, going to have their own storehouses and things like that, which will be part of their property. But for the general populace of the city, number 4 is going to be where most of their storehousing is. This city is going to be walled by a rather large and thick wall. However, if you were to draw a line on the outside of this, that would be pretty much the wall, except for in front of 5, 6, and 7. That bottom row would not have a wall below it. And neither would the capital there, because it's built against the mountain. The mountain functions as its own wall, and the wall would actually be very tight to the city, giving it almost a claustrophobic feel because it's so close in. However, there is a man-made moat that I have inside my brain, kind of like the channels in Venice. This city is going to be designed in a very similar way. The breaks that you see in between that kind of look like they might be streets right now are actually going to be the channels, where small vessels can be brought up and down the river, to include some that have been specifically designed to carry large quantities of goods to bring back and forth to the trade house. The major pier is actually going to be off number 7. 7 will serve as a welcome site. It will be a cultural center, but a lot of hinin and people who conduct business, like the people who work the markets or the trade houses within the markets, probably live here if they don't live in their own trade houses. Number 6 is going to be where the samurai caste lives, and there will be, those are actual residents, so we're going to have some people that that's because of their caste where they would of course live or spend most of their time. Number 5 is going to be where the Henin and Eda live, specifically more the miners than anything else. The Henin that are of higher station or make good enough money may choose to live in number 7. This being a smaller city, it's going to actually have less samurai overall. In game terms, the Henin and Eda are actually going to completely outnumber the samurai, which in L5R is sometimes a little uncommon. At least enough to where it would be noticeable to the samurai. There's almost always more of the subservient class than there are the high class. Just in any city, but in this city it's very noticeable. Samurai are well aware that they're in the minority here. So the city I haven't named yet. I want to give it some great name like Green River City or something like that, and I want to translate it that way it makes sense, or give it some sort of name that's appropriate to the city, to the setting, I should say. But that kind of gives us an idea of how we want to break down the basics of the city. Again, I'm going to do these quick, short, and to the point. So now that you guys have this, the next video we'll begin talking about some points of interest for each district. All right? Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you at the gaming table. Oh, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe, all of that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next time.